First of all, I want us to say thank you to the board of directors and to the congregation for dreaming up such a wonderful gift for staff. And this happened, I think, somewhere around 15 or so years ago. It happened when I was still here before I left. And it's evolved over the years to try to figure out how we can best live into this thing called Sabbath. You know, we talk about it a lot, and those that talk and coach a lot don't always do. And so when we talk about it as a staff and as a pastoral staff and leaders, it is a great opportunity for us not only to get that recharge, as most of us are on the weekends, but it's also a great point of reference and hopefully a model for you to take time away. Now, my time away actually officially ends tomorrow, but we do have a skeleton crew here that's here taking it down the wire. But I spent most of my time cleaning out the garage, basements, and other things like that. And in doing so, I've used muscles that I don't think I knew existed anymore. And I think I pulled one. I'm not sure where it is. I think it's deep down somewhere within, and it's coming out the back somewhere. So that's how I spent a lot of my sabbatical. Well, several summers ago, a number of years ago actually, my family and I, we decided we were going to go see the redwoods. These trees. Now, I was like, really? We're going to go see trees? Like, there's trees everywhere. Like, you know, go outside. We have a tree. Let's cut that one down. Let's grow this one. Like, trees everywhere. But we decided we were going to go, and I have to tell you, the trees were amazing. Amazing. I'm growing one in my house right now, a redwood tree. It's the second time we've tried it, and it's going. But the beautiful part about it all was not just the trees, but the drive out there. I spent most of my life driving east. My family, my parents, all the relatives were in North Carolina or Ohio or in Alabama, Tennessee. And we spent a lot of time along the Gulf Coast, a lot of time out east. And I love the Appalachian Mountains. Don't get me wrong. They're a beautiful set of mountains and all those different mountain ranges. But there's something different when you drive west. Everything opens up. Everything seems bigger. We decided we were going to go west over and over and over again. And if you have never been, I invite you to hit the northern Pacific coast and then drive along the ocean south into Northern California. One of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. Beautiful. And we do call that, right? America the Beautiful. You know it. It reminds me of another trip that was taken way back in 1893. A 33-year-old college professor took a road trip by train from Massachusetts to Colorado. And along the way, this professor, she collected her thoughts about the countryside and the people she encountered. And then she went to where she was destined to go, which was Pikes Peak. And as she sat on top of Pikes Peak, she was so moved by her experience that she wrote a poem. The poem was titled America, and it was first published in 1895. And then in 1910, a church organist, thank you church organists like Bruce Becker, set the lyrics to her tune. And this poem became America the Beautiful, one of the best known songs in our American culture. Catherine Bates, this 33-year-old professor, was deeply inspired by the land she saw for the very first time. Can you imagine? It's 1893. And to travel by train through the vast, unpopulated lands, most of it untouched by human hands, she was certainly inspired by what she saw out the window. However, later on, she would express that her deep inspiration came in her deep belief in humanity's fundamental faith in human She called it brotherhood. Today we would probably call it human community. She believed, at the heart of each of us is this belief that we are deeply connected, Professor Bates says. And not only that we deeply connected, but that is our desire. Because America is beautiful not because of our landscape. America is beautiful because America is a bunch of people who care deeply about one another and are committed to the idea. Remember, America is an idea. An idea that we're all in this together. Our scripture text speaks to us about our human connection. Dale just read from the Message. It sounded a little bit different translation, but it says, I'm not trying to rule the roost, God. I don't want to be king of the mountain. I haven't meddled where I have no business or fantasized grandiose plans. I've kept my feet on the ground. Wait, Israel, for God. Wait with hope. Hope now, hope always. How wonderful, how beautiful when brothers and sisters get along. It's like costly anointing oil flowing down the head and beard, flowing down Aaron's beard. Now that might seem like a really weird thing for us, but when the oil would come out and when the oil would flow on Aaron's head and down on his beard, it was a sign of God's generosity. And the sign of God's generosity is brought on when brothers and sisters get along. I'm one of 8. I can't tell you how many moments and times in our lives when my brothers and sisters haven't got along. What a wonderful day to talk about my family when live streaming is shut down. Because I get along with everybody. Can you imagine 8 siblings, 2 folks trying to figure it out? My parents can testify to all of the angst, multiple generations in my family. About 25 years ago, one of my brothers, my little brother, disappeared. He disowned the family. He said, I'm out of here. I don't want anything to do with you guys. First of all, I don't believe anything that you've ever told me. And I'm gone. And he did. He disappeared. Christmas cards and letters came back, returned to sender. So did birthday cards. He actually called up my parents one time just for the simple joy for him of hanging up on them and saying goodbye. Now, it was really, really hard for my mom and dad. And my dad didn't really talk about it, but my mom was pleading for the rest of us, please reach out, somehow bring some reconciliation. Somehow we need to see the oil flow on Aaron's head and down his beard. And about 9-10 years ago, something weird happened. My brother sent an email to me and said, I'd love to come visit you guys. And I remember getting the email, and I remember talking to my wife going, what? Maybe this is a fake. Maybe this isn't real. But we did our research, and it was real. And my mom, my sisters who live up here were really like, not so sure. He wasn't really cool on the way out. But my mom said, please, please, please. And so he came, and he visited with his new wife, and the earth moved that day for our family. He was normal. Who would have thought? We had built him up as the boogeyman, the guy that was going to come and maybe do whatever he's going to do, and he was quite normal. Actually, he was very generous. He was very generous, especially with his stories about me to my wife, which I wish he wouldn't have done. But it was an amazing reunion. It felt a lot like Psalm 133. How wonderful, how beautiful when brothers and sisters get along. It felt like sitting on top of Pikes Peak with Professor Bates, looking out and believing again that maybe we can do this, declaring that our world was beautiful. Professor Bates got it right. We do have this fundamental faith in human brotherhood, and when she writes, God shed his grace on thee. It's God's grace that makes us beautiful. If you read that song, there's only one stanza that goes through each, or one verse or one sentence that goes through each stanza, and it's God shed his grace on thee. All these wonderful, beautiful things that Professor Bates is talking about only happen because God's grace is shed on us. And we need God's grace. Because if we're going to have an adult, true conversation, what is true is as we reflect on this 4th of July, America the beautiful, well, sometimes America is not beautiful. There are places in our great nation where human hands have wrought destruction upon our landscapes. Well, rivers are poisoned, mountains that no longer have peaks, forests that no longer have trees. Yes, it's true that humanity has a fundamental faith in human brotherhood, but we're also human. And humans can do some ugly things to one another. And again, if we were honest, we could sing America the Beautiful one day. We could also sing and lament America the Ugly on other days. If we were going to look through the lens of Psalm 133, we could see where that ugliness comes from. We are ugly when brothers and sisters don't get along. I'm not talking about little spats with one another. I'm talking about the deep and ugly effort to create division in our nation. Now, this is not a new reality. Several thousand years ago, the psalmist wrote about how beautiful it is when brothers and sisters get along. You know why? Because the psalmist knows how ugly it is when they don't. Our current American ugliness is amped up by what we watch on TV or listen to on the radio. But our generation does not have the exclusive rights to behaving badly. Professor Bates wrote her poem in the midst of sexist prejudice and discrimination. She couldn't vote. How was she able to sing America the Beautiful? She had witnessed the ravages of industrial revolution. She had seen firsthand urban poverty and misery and keenly wished for equality. When she wrote this poem, it was during the Depression of 1893, one of the worst economic disasters in American history. Life expectancy was 43 years old. Child labor was widespread in industrial factories, with many of these kids as young as 10 years old forced to work in these factories. But in the midst of that ugliness, somehow Bates was able to find her prophetic voice. Even in the ugliness, America the beautiful. And as I've said earlier, there's a constant in all of this, and it's God's grace. Just as God's grace flowed over with that oil over Aaron's head and Aaron's beard in my own family reunion with our brother, God's grace flows all over us. And Bates grounds that song, that poem, in America, America, God shed his grace on thee. Why? Because we need it. We need it. We need God's grace to shed on thee. We need it. And God is calling us to live into that grace, to receive that grace. And this is how we live into that grace. We make declarations like Dale read. I'm not trying to rule the roost. I don't want to be king of the mountain. I haven't meddled where I have no business or fantasized grandiose plans. I've kept my feet on the ground. I've cultivated a quiet heart. Like a baby content in his mother's arms, my soul is a baby content. Wait, Israel, for God. Wait with hope. Hope now, hope always.